Hey gals, welcome to Binge Free Bestie, the podcast where we ditch the diets, break free from binge eating, and build a safe and empowered relationship with our bodies. I'm your host, Nick Carberia, a registered therapist who totally gets it. Binge eating and body image struggles? Yep, I've been there, done that, and I've got the therapy bills to prove it. But here's the good news, bestie. I've recovered and I'm here to help you to do the same. This potty is all about real, evidence-based strategies from my therapy practice, plus down-to-earth, relatable girl talk with me and some of my amazing besties and other experts who have their own stories, tips, and tricks to share with you. So, whether you're tired of the diet cycle, ready to ditch the shame spiral, or just want to feel more confident in your own skin, then you've come to the right place. It's time to get real about food freedom, body acceptance, self-care, and building a life you truly love. Let's get into it, besties.
Hey, welcome back to the Binge Free Bestie podcast. I'm Nick. I am your food freedom hype girl. I'm a registered therapist and I'm someone who gets this. I get how messy binge and emotional eating can feel. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different because it's not just for my usual listeners. This episode is actually aimed at the partners, the family, the support people of people who struggle with binge or emotional eating. Because it can feel really confusing, right? It can feel scary, it can feel frustrating to know what to do or what to say or what not to do or say when somebody you love is struggling and you really want to help and you don't want to make it worse. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down a few tips on how you can best support them, the things that I would advise you to avoid, and what will actually help. And I'm coming at this from my lived experience as somebody who really struggled with binge eating disorder for nearly a decade and was not supported well by my partner or my family. And in fact, they often make things worse. So I'm coming at it from that angle. I know what doesn't help from that lived experience, but I'm also coming in as a professional in this area. I work in the mental health field, I am working in eating disorders, and I specialize in binge eating. So you've got that kind of double whammy there of the lived experience of knowing how it feels when someone is not supporting you well and what would have actually helped, and also that professional experience. So the first thing I think that will be really helpful for you is to understand a little bit about binge and emotional eating. So first things first, binge and emotional eating are not about willpower or discipline, okay? Your partner or your loved one, they're not weak, they're not lazy, they're not broken. What is really happening here is a mix of some really powerful drivers that most people don't see or understand. And most of the time, the person who is struggling also does not understand why they are struggling so much. So of course, when you're on the outside, it's even harder to see. So I'm going to give you the basics, because when you understand why they're stuck in this loop, you're going to be able to respond with compassion instead of frustration. So there's three big triggers behind binge and emotional eating. And the first one is called physical restriction. So physical restriction is when someone isn't eating enough, and that might be consciously or unconsciously. So maybe they're on a diet, so they're choosing not to eat enough, right? Maybe they are skipping meals, maybe they're trying to cut calories, maybe they're taking out entire food groups, like I can't eat bread, can't eat potatoes, can't eat pasta, no sugar after 8 p.m. Perhaps that physical restriction may not necessarily be intentional, but it's happening. So if she's a busy gal and she is in meetings all day or chasing after kids or whatever it is, maybe it gets to 3 or 4 o'clock and she realizes, oh, I haven't eaten. So that eating is irregular, whether or not that is a choice. Okay, so what we know about physical restriction is that no matter how you're restricting, whether it's conscious or not, eventually the body is going to rebel. So those hunger hormones build, biology kicks in, and that overeating or binging becomes inevitable. So it's not weakness, It is a survival response from the body and the brain. The second big trigger behind binge eating is mental restrictions. So that could look like, just say, even if they are eating, they're eating their 3 meals, 2 snacks, that's great. But if their mind is full of rules, such as, again, I shouldn't have bread or potatoes, or I can't eat after 8 p.m., or dessert is bad, that is called mental restriction. We're moralizing food. We're defining it as good or bad. Our brain fixates on those forbidden foods. And eventually what happens is we fall off the bandwagon, so whether that's a diet or just trying to be good, and that food becomes irresistible to us and leads to a binge. And the third big trigger to binge eating is nervous system dysregulation and unmet emotional needs. So sometimes binge eating isn't about physical hunger at all. You're not hungry. And a lot of women that I work with, and myself included, we can experience binges where you're totally dissociated, or it feels robotic, or you're almost like a zombie, right? You're looking down at yourself with this bird's eye view, being like, what is going on? And all of a sudden you come to and you're surrounded by chip packets or whatever it was you were eating, and you're like, how on earth did this happen? That's got nothing to do with hunger. That usually has to do with soothing. So when somebody is stressed, anxious, lonely, overwhelmed, their nervous system is dysregulated and it is looking for some relief, some way to ground. And food is a really fast, easy way to regulate ourselves and to cope with the hard stuff. Our brain always chooses the easiest path, okay? And we learn over time, food makes us feel good. We get that quick dopamine kick, lights up all those reward centers in your brain. So, of course, when we're in those times of stress and pressure and we're needing to regulate and we want to do it fast, food is an obvious option, right? So that might be another thing that is behind this behavior around food and eating. So when we put all these things together, what we get is something called the binge restrict cycle. So it kind of looks like this, and I know you're just hearing an audio, so visualize this with me. It's a circle, right? And at the top of that circle is that restriction. So restricting food, not eating enough, having lots of rules around food, moralizing it. Over time, the cravings kick up. So whether that's that biological response from your body saying, I need food, I'm going to drive you towards it by increasing the urge to eat with those hunger hormones. Or you have that forbidden fruit effect with all of those naughty foods that just eventually you can't resist them anymore. We crack, we crave, and we have a binge. So we overeat. And as we know, if we're not eating enough, what we will do is we will overeat. So we'll eat way past that point of fullness because our body is saying, hey, I don't know when the next time food is coming around. I don't trust you to reliably feed me. It does not know that that was a choice to diet. Your body can see that as a famine. So when it does get its hands on some food, it's going to overeat just in case another famine comes. So you restrict, you have an urge to binge, eventually it overpowers and you binge. And then we have an emotional fallout. So we're feeling guilt, we're feeling shame. And because we have those heavy emotions, we choose to restrict again. We say, I'll start again on Monday. I'll be good. I'll behave myself. I'll throw out all the sugar in the house and I'll be a better person this time. And you know what happens? We start restricting again and around it goes. That is the binge restrict cycle. And that is why people get stuck and stay stuck. I have done much deeper dives on other episodes on this cycle. So if you really want to understand the mechanics behind binge eating, definitely go through the podcast and have a wee listen to some of those episodes after you've heard this one. So now you know the basics though, and we're going to talk about the common mistakes that support people can make. And I know that you are coming from a good place. You're coming from a place of love. But sometimes, even though we're coming from that place of love, we can unintentionally make things harder for the person we really want to help. So first tip is, don't police their food. Okay, so comments like, do you really need that? Or haven't you already eaten is only going to add to that shame that I was talking about before. And when they're feeling ashamed, when they're feeling guilty, they will be secretive with their eating behavior. Okay, and they won't come to you and they won't share this piece of their life with you, which means you can't help. Okay, so no policing their food. It's their body, it's their choice. I know that you want to help, but those kind of comments on what they're eating, when they're eating, how much they're eating are not helpful. Next tip, don't try to control this relationship with food on their behalf. So doing things like hiding their snack foods, hiding the naughty foods, throwing things away, it's only going to create more of that scarcity mentality, and it's going to create a sense of panic, and they'll be doing things like binging in their car anyway. So you can't control it. The best thing you can do is actually allow them to have those forbidden foods in the house. And I'll do other episodes on this if you want to learn more about how to do that in a safe and gentle way. But, hiding the snack foods or throwing things away or saying you're not allowed this in this house, again, it's just going to lead to scarcity, panic, and more secrecy. You don't want secrecy in any relationship, right? Like, that is not a healthy, functioning adult relationship when one person feels like they have to hide a piece of themselves. So don't try to control it on their behalf. Next thing is, don't give diet advice. So trust me, they've already heard it all. They know everything. They are already Googling the latest diets. They're already having it filtering through their social media. They're already hearing people talking about it in the staff room. They've heard it all. Keto, intermittent fasting, only drink black coffee, count your calories. Giving them more rules and more diet information is confusing, and more rules just are not the answer here. So let's not give diet advice. Again, I know it's probably well-intentioned, but there is so much conflicting advice out there. So you can do whatever you want with your food, your body, your decisions, but let's not talk about that with other people. And the last thing is, don't make it about you. So saying things like, it upsets me when you binge, puts a lot of pressure and guilt on them. So we don't want to put them in that seat of blame, again, because blame leads to shame and shame leads to secrecy, and they will never be able to break the cycle of binge eating as long as they are feeling that sense of guilt, shame, and they're hiding the truth of what's happening for them. So don't make it about you if you can. Just come to them with lots of love and compassion and let them know that you are a safe place. So what can you actually do? What does help? Here are some of the most powerful ways that you can support your person. The first is your job to be a safe person, okay? So let them know that you were here to listen without any judgment, and sometimes they actually don't want to or need to be fixed. They just want to feel heard. And you can do that. You can 100% do that. You don't need to be a therapist. All you need to do is just sit with them and just nod and listen and say, okay, thanks for sharing that with me. I really appreciate that. That's really brave to be so open. Let me know what you need. Okay, you don't need to come back with tips and strategies or ideas. You don't need to do anything other than just listen. The next tip is, let's start to normalize food. So enjoy meals together without turning it into a big deal. So you can model to them, role model, balance, and flexibility. So order the dessert, eat the pizza, but eat the salad too. Show that food can and should be joyful, and then it's okay to choose the so-called naughty food from time to time. and that there won't be a big consequence of guilt or shame or criticism if they choose to order the burger when you go out for dinner instead of the salad, for example. Okay, normalizing food. The next one is encouraging lots of self-compassion. So just remind them that one meal or one binge doesn't define them, and they're not broken, and they're not human, and you think they're awesome. They are amazing. Regardless of what food they eat, regardless of how much they weigh, you love them. Okay? Offer practical support. So maybe that looks like taking on a bit more when they're feeling overwhelmed. Doing a few more chores around the house or helping with the kids a little more, or just noticing, they're seeming quite dysregulated, and we know that is a binge trigger. So what can I do to support? Maybe doing things like cooking together is helpful, or it could just be getting out of the way when they're trying to cook or make a choice, or let them know that you support them in their own choices. Next thing is celebrate wins. So celebrating wins no matter how small. So if your person manages to pause before a binge and delay that binge a wee bit, that is amazing. That is progress. Maybe that day they were just a little bit kinder to themselves, or maybe that day they were able to share how they were feeling with you. Acknowledge that progress, because acknowledging it helps to build hope. And lastly, encourage professional help. So recovery is so much easier with support from someone who gets it. And they need your support 100%. They need support around them with their people in their life. But it's also helpful for them to have some peer support. So whether that's through therapy with someone like me or coaching, doing a program like my one, The Breakup, joining a community online, these things remind them that help exists and what they're experiencing is not a struggle they're in on their own. And I guess the most important tip to wrap that one up with is just remind them that they're loved, that they're special. And they're loved and they're special not for what they eat, and not for, what their body looks like, but just who they are. You love them for so many other reasons. So try to give compliments on things other than weight, shape, size, and appearance. I also want to say this actually. I know it can feel really hard being the support person too. You're probably feeling helpless at times, or you feel like you're walking on eggshells, and I just want you to know that that's normal. It's normal to feel that way. But please know that just caring enough to listen to this episode means that you're already doing something incredible, and that you have the potential to be an amazing support person. And you already are, like I said, because you're listening to this. You care. And just know that your role isn't to fix them. Your role is just to stand alongside them while they learn to heal themselves. We can't make anyone else heal. Same for me. Here I am. I'm the therapist. I've got the tools. I have many clients who, they don't ever actually become clients. Many people who talk to me in my DMs, or they email me, or they approach me and they say they want change, but they actually don't take the steps to do that. And for me, I don't work with those people, because you can't support and help someone through a recovery journey if they're not ready. So just remember that as well. We can't fix them ourselves. We stand alongside them as they do the work. So just think of yourself as a safe place that they can come back to when everything feels really heavy, or that they can share their celebrations and their progress with. Because your presence is way, way more powerful than any solution or tip or strategy that you might be able to offer anyway. So that's a wrap. That's a wrap. That's all I want to say. I don't want to give you too much. I just want you to know that if you love someone who's struggling with binge or emotional eating, just remember that they don't need another critic. They don't need any more food police. They've got enough of that going on in their brain. They need compassion, patience, and support. Okay? And if you're listening to this and you're the person who's struggling, Maybe share this episode with your partner or your support person so that they can understand a little bit better what you're going through and how they can walk alongside you. That's all I wanted to share today. And if this episode resonated with you, could you please take a moment to review this podcast on Apple or Spotify? Just hit the 5 stars if you're feeling really generous. When you do that, it helps the algorithm to push this podcast out further into the world, which means I can help more women in their recovery journeys. And to say thank you, if you do that, just send me a wee screenshot of your review and then DM it to me on Instagram, and I will send you a free copy of my ebook on body image. And if you or your partner are ready to go deeper and you are ready to do the work, then the doors to my signature program, The Breakup, open on the 10th of October. I'm so excited. It's been a long time coming. The doors have been shut for a while, and that's because I've been refreshing the program. I have been getting some mentorship from some of the top businessmen in the world, and you can read more about that on my Instagram or listen to my podcast episode about how I'm working with Diary of a CEO's Stephen Bartlett. He is now my business mentor, so we've done a little bit of a tweak to my strategy and how I can help more women in the world. So I closed the door to my program, but they are reopening on that 10th of October. So please join me if you like. I've also got 2 options to do that now. So the first option is a self-led recovery, and that's instant access. As soon as you enroll, you can dive in and start your recovery journey straight away. Or you can do it in a group coaching container, which will run twice a year. The next one is starting in Feb 2026. But if you enroll in that, you're still going to get that instant access to the Breakup portal, and you can start working through the content on your own. But then in February, you'll get that live group coaching and your community alongside you as well. So, all right, besties, that's all for today. Partners, keep showing up with love. You have absolutely got this. And to everyone listening, you're not broken, you're not alone, and healing is absolutely possible. Sending you lots of love and care, and I'll catch you in the next episode.